what I want to speak about in this specific presentation is how we scaled our own agency in the last couple of months and what actual implementations we did. Because the thing is, I've been to a bunch of these OFM events, and I've been talking to Marco before that from Donut Jobs, by the way, quick shout out. I've been talking to Marco about previous events, and the problem is most of the speeches you hear, they're pretty good. Like, it's value, it sounds cool, you feel like you're doing something productive, but I'm always asking, why do these people hold a speech? I've never heard of them, right? People who probably shouldn't hold a speech are telling me how to run Instagram. So I decided to quickly show how exactly we scale the agency with real models, real numbers that I can back up, so you guys also know where the following event speeches come from. So to quickly summarize that, I know there's not really pen and papers here, but like I already said before, my goal is that every single one of you can go home after this event, get drunk in the restaurant or not, your choice, fly back to wherever you came from, and then literally just implement the stuff we talk about today and make more money. I don't want to LARP about like crazy strategies. I literally just want to scale those agencies. So to quickly kind of start it the right way, recently this year in 2026, we hit a new record high of 920K in agency revenue, which again, it's revenue, it's not profit. But before that, we had one of the highest losses in the lifetime of the agency. So we went from the lowest low to the highest high in just a couple of months. And the first thing that I thought I knew before, I thought I was speaking about that on YouTube and the groups, all that stuff, but I never really implemented it because I was a dumbass, was acquisition. Because the beauty in acquisition, our agency, that basically got us from the worst point we've ever been in, not being able to get enough cash flow to pay all of our employees, to a new record high, was acquisition, first of all. Beauty about acquisition is it solves all of the agency's problems. And I was talking to some of you in private chats, I remember. And I was talking about what the easiest ways to scale an agency are. Obviously, they're all not easy, but what's the most efficient way? And all the people that I've talked to that told me, yeah, marketing, Instagram Reels, dating apps, Reddit, whatever it is, right? All the buzzwords that people say in this industry. But no one really mentioned acquisition, because on the one hand, this is literally your insurance, because the mistake we did is we got comfortable with our creators, which we've never stopped acquisition. In fact, we did stop it once in the end of 2022. Actually, December 15th, 2022. We decided we got enough creators, we got enough cash flow coming in, and we stopped acquisition for a while. Now, 16 days later, or 17 days, on the 1st of January 2023, I was super hungover from New Year's Eve. I woke up at like fucking 11 a.m. and I was feeling absolutely terrible. Maybe like some of you after last night, as I've seen in the videos. And 80% of all of our creators got banned on OnlyFans. I don't know who's been around at that time, but does anyone remember like the big ban wave in 2023? Anyone? Yeah, it was crazy. We lost like 80% of our creators. And then it took us like 3 or 4 months to get back on track because we had no acquisition. And this time, a couple of months ago, we still did our acquisition processes. We had all of our funnels and our ads set up, but we got too comfortable because our top creators were loyal. We've been working with them for years. They were always like doing their content on time. And you know how it is, like after a couple of months, you think, yeah, they're never gonna leave. We're gonna treat them well, we're gonna do everything right, but we don't really go the extra mile to keep them. Turns out one of them got pregnant and one of them got a boyfriend who didn't like OF. So we lost 2 of our biggest performers and we didn't have an actual pipeline set up. Now, to get back to the point I was mentioning earlier, acquisition is so beautiful because if all of you imagine your current agency, your current systems, all the knowledge that you have, imagine you sign a creator tomorrow that already makes, let's say, 10 grand a month, right? 10 out of 10 beautiful, big tits, blonde, blue eyes, working 10 hours a day, happy with a 50-50 split. Let's say the ideal creator, right? The thing every one of us dreams about. And now imagine how much money that creator would probably generate you with your systems. Now, I'd assume since you're at this event, that will probably be close or even higher 6 figures, right? Perfect creator, no problems with her at all. You can literally just tell her to do content and she does it exactly like you told her. I think for most agencies, that's 6-figure material. So you're essentially one good or perfect creator away from scaling your agency to multiple 6 figures, or a couple of them. Now, the problem is signing them the right way, as we all know. But this is where we saw the biggest leverage for our agency, because acquisition doesn't mean we just get a bunch of Argentinian creators that barely speak English and have a pulse, but acquisition means we get so many inbound leads into our agency that we can just pick the best creator out of, let's say, 100, and this creator is actually going to put a leverage on our system. So with the same Instagram Reels, the same chatting, the same Reddit, whatever, we just make 3 times the money, which I think all of us had that. Some creators just pop off randomly and some of them just don't. So volume was the answer here. Now, to get back to the original topic before I lose myself in little tales again, when these top creators left us and our agency was going downhill for a couple of months now. And we had a lot of emergency meetings, a lot of unnecessary meetings even. The actual things that made a difference, that got us back on top, were essentially three. First one being to keep the acquisition running, like we already said. We lost like 150K in revenue, just like from creators leaving. Not even the pregnant creator and the one where the boyfriend didn't like wife, just creators leaving the agency, getting a better offer from an American agency that took 10%. We all know, we've been there. Yeah, classic. And acquisition was the first leverage that we pulled directly. So the first emergency meeting, you have to understand, is I'm waking up on a random, I think it was a Saturday, and I got 2 messages on the same time. Of course, the creators left on the same day. What else? And the first thing we did is hop on a call for 10 hours and set up all of our acquisition systems. I'm going to go to that later, of course. And the second was matching A players to A creators. I'm going to elaborate on each point so it makes sense and you guys can actually implement it. But we noticed we run our agency a bit like communism. So every one of us has employees that bring in the most revenue, that have the highest rating overall. If you've ever done personality tests or ratings of employees overall, you have your A players, you have your B players in the agency, and that's normal. You can't just have A players. But we kind of split them across the entire agency because we thought if you're that good of an employee, you can make a bad model work. And if you're kind of not bad, because bad employees get fired, but if you're an okay, above average employee, you get the creators that perform the best, because then each creator has like enough manpower to get done, and we kind of distribute all the revenue. So we don't have just one creator popping off. What we did in this situation is we decided, fuck the entire communism thing. We're just gonna put our complete A players, the entire C-level suite, the best of the best, on our top creators and get the most revenue out of it. Because like we already talked about, creators have a certain cap, whether people want to admit this or not. But if you have a creator that has very bad physical attributes, that doesn't have the work ethic, even if she's not a bad creator in itself, you have to compensate with way better work. So to kind of bring it into an example, I'm not a big fan of ranking creators from like 1 to 10 looks wise, but if you have a 5 out of 10 creator that has nothing interesting about them, like no crazy looks, not even good looking, but something crazy like a big nose or short hair or big lips, something like that, or a crazy location. We have one creator that lived on a fucking beach in Thailand. Of course, it's fire for content. If she doesn't have anything that's interesting about her, now you have to compensate with the content, with the video ideas, because there's creators right now, they can literally just do a dancing video because they live on a beach and they look super, super interesting. For example, Sophie Rain, and they make millions of views. But the less interesting your creator is, the more you have to have crazy locations, crazy skits, 5 different parts, crazy hooks, all of that stuff that we all talk about, that we all suffer from. So we started matching our top employees to our top creators and giving the specific systems to get the most money out of it. The last one, and this is going to come later in the Instagram presentation, is we started following the market. Because I, as someone who's basically yapping about having unique content ideas and not doing what everyone else does in OFM, I'm still doing it sometimes. I'm still doing that mistake. So we were using concepts and patterns that were already outdated. So we started the whole new sentiment analysis for each one of our creators. Again, I'm going to come to that. And these 3 things made us get back on top. We didn't start a new traffic source. We didn't hire like 50 new people. We didn't do any of the things that normally you would do to scale your agency. We just implemented these 3 things. Now, to quickly elaborate, like we already said, acquisition not being run as it should be cost us like 150K in revenue. Now, the way we scaled it up, I mean, I think most of y'all should have gotten access to a recruiting course. Can anyone raise the hand to watch the recruiting course? You can be honest. Oh, don't do me like that. Come on. That's dirty. All right. You're giving out a course for free, nobody watches it. Anyway, then this is going to be even cooler. Because the 3 things that we did to get a way better inflow of new creators were those 3 things. Obviously, personal brand is something I think a couple of people here have talked to about their personal brand, so some of you have it, but essentially it's an asset. I can't tell you guys, oh, just start a YouTube channel, because A, it's a pretty bad idea, because I was an idiot and I used my real name to start an OFM channel. But also, if you don't have a personal brand, like I explained in the course that every one of you watched, let's just act like it for the video. Essentially, thank you, boss, you're saving my life. Not the aura loss, that soon, all right. But essentially, personal brand takes a fuck ton of time, right? You can guarantee it takes at least 3 months until you see results. You don't have to have like millions of views, but personal brands is something that I won't recommend directly. What's more interesting, and what the recruiting course that we all watched in this room covers in extent, was our model-to-model outreach. So before I go too deep into this, because we got a fuck ton of things we want to talk about today, essentially the easiest playbook that you can think of is even assuming you don't have any creators to your name right now. If you have a creator that has 200K on Instagram, perfect for model to model outreach, makes sense, but not every one of you has it. You can literally, after this event, if you say, hey, we want to sign more creators, you can sit down, create a new Instagram account, put a profile picture and a bio from your current creators in there, buy like 20, 30K followers, put that account on private, and now you can do model to model outreach. So just to quickly get that out of the way, you don't need a successful creator to do this. You can also just fabricate an account and put it on private. Right? Now, the next thing that we used to do even before, but then we really kind of build it on scale, for every single creator we had like 5 or 6 of these accounts. Obviously, first step in the process was finding all of the creators that we want to outreach to that had our specific creator archetype, all the things we were looking for. Essentially, just look at your top successful creators, look what they all have in common, and now you know what to recruit. Makes sense. We started befriending all of these models, right? We just texted them from a female account like, hey girl, oh my god, your dog is so cute, what race is he? Or, oh my god, that mascara is slaying, where did you get it from, right? The typical lingo. And this is basically what a lot of agencies do. The part where most agencies fuck this up is they're kind of operating like a federal agent. They're like, wow, your mascara is cute. By the way, I've seen you do OnlyFans. I got this great agency I work with. Maybe, I don't know, you want to work with them? Which it's like way too fucking obvious. And this is where most agencies fuck the model to model outreach up. Now, what we started to do is we had a complete script for every single outreach VA we had. Can recommend to do it yourself in the beginning because this is very hard to teach, relies on a lot of emotional intelligence. But our time from messaging the creator the first time, like, oh my god, the mascara is slaying, and us bringing up that we know an agency that can help her, on average, if I had to look at our ManyChat CRM, was, I think, 1.5 weeks. So our time from basically the first introduction to the pitch was around 10 days, which I think no agency does that nowadays. But it resulted in all of the creators that were a good fit, that were a potential lead, that were interested in an agency. I think we had like an 85% close rate on our model calls if they were a fit. And the sign rate from creators that we pitched the agency to, where we already identified them as a lead, we got their pain points, we find out what's annoying them, what they want out of life. Then we clarified, okay, but if you want this and your current agency does this, girl, I'm not sure, this might not work. You know, basically making the pain bigger and offering them a solution. I think the call booked rate also was around like 40%, which for any one of you who's done anything other than OFM, who knows like about these funnel type of numbers, that's fucking insane. Now, again, watch the recruiting course so you get all the little details about it. The last thing that we did was pushing creator incentives more, like a referral, be like basically peer-to-peer network, which again, I think most of us do. Most of us tell our creators, hey, if you have a friend who wants to do OFM, you can just tell them about the agency, we're gonna pay you, right? But the one thing that made the difference here, because we've been doing this for years now, was we re-evaluated our offer. Because before, we offered creators, listen, if you give us one of your friends, right, you tell them, hey, this agency is great, we're going to pay you like a bit of percentage from our first 3 months. But now we twisted the entire thing, and we had the same money that we gave them, but now we told them, hey, we want you to have stake in the agency, we want you to be a real partner, you can like get passive earnings from the agency, all that stuff. You're going to get paid for every creator you bring in, percentage-wise, all that stuff. So the point I'm trying to bring across here is what fixed our acquisition and gave us a bunch of leads to choose from that we were able to scale pretty fast because the leads were so good, was working out the offer that we gave creators, not the money that we paid them, not how they are doing it, not all of that stuff. You should give that to them anyway. But the way we framed them bringing us models was completely changed because we found out that most creators are scared of competition. They don't want to lose their spot. Most creators, they're scared of getting rejected by their friends. They don't know exactly what to tell them, right? So us telling them, for example, hey, you're going to have stake in the agency, you're going to get a percentage of all the creators you bring in, now made them feel like they were actually a part of something, right? And you can work out any offer that you want for that. This is not the point of this whole presentation. But this is what fixed our already existing recruiting models into something that brought us so many leads that we were able to choose, I think out of 100 different models we could choose from at the end of the couple of months, which shows like the best 5. And if you know anything about mathematics, the best 5 models out of 100 are going to bring you significantly more revenue in the agency than the best 5 models out of the 10 that you DM'd on Instagram. Now, next up, we had A players that we matched to A creators. Now, what I specifically want to cover is how we rated every single team member, because this is not only relevant to kind of get them onto the right spots, this is relevant for your entire agency, because your employees are your number one bottleneck. And I've already talked about this in like a couple of YouTube videos and stuff, but you have to keep in mind your systems and your way of doing things, your content, your scripts, all of that stuff is like a weapon, right? Probably a pretty clean weapon, like the best AR out there, right? Pretty high level stuff for most of you. But if the people holding that weapon don't even know how to aim or reload, it's pointless. So your employees need to be on a certain level and they need to be in the right position. Now, the way we rated our employees was the ABC tier system. What a creative name, by the way. Essentially, pretty basic stuff. We got our A players, B players, and C players, right? Our A managers, the people where we know, and I'm going to come to how we evaluate them, right? Our A managers are in charge of one single creator because we know the more they can hyper-focus on one creator, the more revenue we get out of them. These are very few people in our agency, by the way. We have a ton of managers, but these people bring all of their attention on one creator. Now, obviously, the creator has to have the potential to reach 100, 200, 300K. So I think every one of us has certain creators where you're keeping them around because they bring a positive ROI, but they're not really the thing where you look at it and say, oh wow, this is going to get my agency to the next level. The B managers are in charge of a couple of creators, right? So they can kind of focus on different creators that have the same archetype. You don't want to have one manager handling an Asian creator that's petite and a blonde creator with tattoos. So you want to have creators that have a similar archetype, which is something that I've noticed is probably the biggest leverage in most agencies, because just to kind of have that reference point, if you have 3 creators, one of them is a petite Asian, one of them is a blonde with tattoos, and one of them is, for example, an Ebony creator or a trans creator, you're essentially running 3 separate agencies. You have 3 times the workload because every single system is different. You have different content plans, different scripts, different subs. So you have 3 times the work, but the ROI isn't there. Compared to, and this is what I've seen in basically all the agencies that I've seen scale super fast, is if you focus on 1 or 2 creator archetypes in your entire agency, if you focus on 1 or 2 archetypes, so you say, we as an agency, we're just going to focus on Asian creators. We're just going to focus on Ebony creators, trans creators, whatever. Now you have one universal system. All the chats are more or less the same. All the content is more or less the same. And you have basically a fifth of the entire workload, but you have 3 times the revenue. So this is where B managers especially come in place. And C managers are people where we see they're better at operating from a bird eye perspective. Again, gonna come to that in the next slide. That we're just working on all of the creators we are testing that we're trying to put on the agency, because again, not every creator has the potential to make money, right? In 2021, 2022, that wasn't the case. Who of you has been part of OFM 2022 or before? Anyone? Fuck yeah. All right, so a couple of people. You remember 2022, you could put every single woman on the platform and she would make money, right? You post a twerking video on TikTok and you would get more subs than nowadays. But 2026, I don't know what your guys' experience is, but there's creators that have a hard cap because the competition is just too good. So our C managers were basically in charge of making sure that we just get, for example, 10 creators in the agency and we give all of them like 1 or 2 months to kind of show that they have potential. We kind of put them on one manager, he's doing the same system everywhere. And the ones that had good ROI, the ones that popped, significantly grew, we kept them, and the rest we just offboarded or recommended them to another agency. The core point of this is how we actually evaluated the team, because what most agencies do when they evaluate employees, which you have to go through at a certain point. If you see the chatting is down, you evaluate your chatters, okay, who's doing a good job, who's doing a bad job. Now, the 2 things everybody looks at is how much revenue do they bring in, and are they productive? Are they motivated for work for the agency, which is the most obvious stuff. But what we look at, and this is after 6 years of managing employees in all the different ways, but after 6 years, this is how I learned to rate my employees. First one is growth. So how much revenue growth did they bring into the agency? Not just revenue, because if I put, for example, if I put a random chatter on Sofiran's account, he's going to pull in like 10K. So the number doesn't mean anything, because it depends also on the model, on the subs, on the systems, whatever. But how much growth did he bring to the creator he's working on to the agency that we got him in? The next one, and this is arguably one of the most important ones for me, is communication. How well do they communicate with creators, and more importantly, to the rest of the employees and to me? Because communication is probably the number one reason why your employees don't work, why they don't do the job that you want them to do the right way, and why you're pissed off at them all the time. Not just them telling you stuff, but also how they communicate and how proactively they communicate. So to kind of put that into example, just a specific point, we had like 5 employees that we tried to rate in like one department, and we noticed that 2 of these employees, every time there's a problem in the chatting, they were like supervisors, right? They saw a problem in the chatting, like, okay, this script doesn't get bought at all, people hate the script, or okay, these subs were complaining about this thing. They were already coming to me proactively and telling me, hey, by the way, we got problem X, I have these 3 solutions in mind, which one would you pick? I just said, okay, pick solution number 2, do you know what to do? Yeah, I'll just do this and this and this, cool, I'll give you a reply until, I don't know, 6 p.m. this evening. All right, cool. And they gave me a reply before that. If it took longer, they told me, okay, it's gonna take longer. Now, these employees weren't the most competent, they weren't the ones that brought the most money, but I can work with something like that because they're proactively trying to fix problems, and as CEOs of the agency, you know, you not having to deal with chatter drama and little things in the back end and the front end all the time means you can scale. Because you as the CEO of the agency, I know I'm kind of like getting off track here every 5 minutes, but you as the CEO of the agency can basically do 3 things to scale, and everything else is a time waste. You can acquire more creators, creator acquisition. You can acquire better employees, so overall hiring, and you can systemize things. You can create more systems, better systems. Everything else is costing you money because your time should only be spent on these three, which is very hard to outsource without having good communication with your employees. This is why I'm bringing this up. Next one was obviously system execution, aka are they able to follow SOPs? Because it's pretty much an easy thing. It's just a yes or no question, right? If your employees have all the things they need to do written down like a Google Docs, this is exactly how the job needs to be done. This is what we expect. They're not able to do it. They're retarded and you should not work with them, right? And even then, are they actually able to trying to understand what you mean and then doing their own version of it? Or are they literally just failing the second they don't have an exact instruction? So also being able to work independently like an intrapreneur, more or less. And work volume, also one of the most obvious ones. How much do they actually work? Because if you ask them, they're probably going to say, oh, yeah, I'm working 9 hours, but it could have been done in 2. So we rated our entire team from 1 to 10 in each of these categories. And every single employee that was, I think it was below a 20 score, something like that, we immediately offloaded, and everyone that was kind of like in the middle, we had a serious talk with them and told them exactly how to improve or we would lay them off. But the people who had exceptionally high ratings, we put as A managers, then the ones in the middle as B managers, and so on. Now, because I already mentioned it, not every model will pop, and you as the agency at some point have to focus on the ones that do. I see a bunch of agencies, I'm sure at least half the people in this room are currently spending way too much time on creators that they know they will not be working with in 3 months or 4 months. You know you're gonna offboard them as soon as you sign a better one. We all know this, the placeholder creators, right? So you spending all of your time in there can make sense if you want to go for some quick cash flow, you want to pay your charters, you want to just make enough revenue so the agency can survive. But make sure you find out which models have the capacity to pop with your agency systems. Not just they look hot or not just they work well, but which one of your models has actually the potential to go to 100K with your systems, realistically. And we did this for our own agency, and I think we noticed that at least 25 or 30% of our models are placeholders. And then we did the math and we thought, okay, like all of our team members and me, myself, my partner, the time we spend on those creators, we get a positive ROI, but what if we spend this time, this exact effort on the creators that actually have the potential to make some money? And after we ran the experiment and we just stopped working with those placeholders, we made way more revenue back from that. So again, everyone has a different way of running the agency. I think there's 2 people here that run a very like broad scale approach, right? Like having like 50 creators plus, etc. Trust me, the less creators you have to a certain degree, the more revenue it's going to put in your bank, because that's the end number we're all looking for. The third play that I mentioned was following the market. Now, how we actually did that, just to kind of give you guys, before I go too much into the Instagram section, because we got a whole speech of that lined up, was this playbook. Obviously, first thing we looked at is what's viral right now. And I don't mean video ideas in itself, but what is actually working for creators within our niche. And without being sidetracked again, so the speech is coming to an end, we looked, for example, let's say Asian creators, because that's a very easy niche. It's a very niche that everyone knows. If you look at 10 Asian creators in your niche right now, right? All Asian, all doing similar content, looking similar to your creators. Basically, their accounts are a living playbook of what you can do and what you can't do. I can tell you guys an example. We wanted to brand one of our creators as a masseuse girl, like doing massages and like chiropractical stuff, you know, like breaking people's backs, and it's like super satisfying. Because I've watched these videos for like 3 months where like the backs get cracked. It's super satisfying. We all know how it is. And I was thinking, before I start this whole thing, let me just quickly see what are other people in this niche doing, just to kind of know, okay, what are the do's and don'ts of this entire thing. And I looked at 10 creators that were doing this type of branding. I looked at their 10 most successful videos. I looked at their 10 least successful videos, and I've written down a whole analysis, like in school, of an introduction, the facts, like kind of like a summary, all that stuff. What I noticed is the chiropractor niche only works if there's a dude involved in the video, because if you just put a chick, like an OnlyFans creator, on a video where she's like cracking her back or something, nobody cares. The only videos that go viral in that niche, based on my analysis, were videos where there's a dude in the video cracking like a woman's back, kind of satisfying, and I don't know how to say this, but touching her inappropriately. That was literally the niche itself, you know? That were the videos that go viral. So it saved us probably 3 months of figuring shit out, because I was just looking at all the other creators. I didn't copy what they're doing, but I just found out. Also, if a video needs to go viral, it needs to have a warm lighting. So yellow lighting, that's exactly not what this is here. So we found out if a video has like very white lighting like this is, as dumb as it sounds, it doesn't get views because it doesn't fit the niche. Like you're going to a massage place, it's always like dark and warm and candles, right? So we find out what's viral right now, and we basically already understand what's working in this niche and what isn't. So we already get 20 content ideas, 50 things we need to keep in mind, and we already build a content plan without having to figure everything out from scratch. Second one is obviously jump on it fast. I think that makes sense. Obviously, if you have a current trend that's going on, a current video stage, you just have either you or someone in your team needs to spend at least 8 hours a day on Instagram Reels or on TikTok or even on Reddit if you want to, right? We need to be super, super fast on things. I could give you 50 different examples on trends where we hopped on it like the same day it happens. This is going to be super niche. I think most of you aren't going to understand. But who of you remembers when the Wisconsin volleyball team got leaked? That was like a big thing. Does anyone remember that? Am I like a fucking boomer? Hell yeah, hell yeah. Like in America, there was this volleyball team, like from a random school, and like their nude photos got leaked, like tragic, whatever. And I remember I was on an OFM event, in fact, in Geneva, and we saw, oh shit, it just got leaked. I was like in the back row, like scrolling TikTok. It was a bit boring, I'm not gonna lie. And we found this out. I immediately called our like marketing guy. I was like, listen, look at this. We need to get the creators on it immediately. Call the creators, let's have the first video out this evening. Because what we did is we had like a blonde creator that looked American, and we just started making videos where she acted like she got leaked. Like, my statement for getting leaked in the Wisconsin volleyball team. Obviously the SEO went crazy. And I think we generated like 10 or 20 million views back then. It was TikTok, so it was a lot easier. Just not flexing too hard here. So the speed does matter. And third of all, you want to make it equal or better, right? Again, I've talked about this a bunch. I think very few of you are still trying to copy things one-on-one. But if we see content pieces, if we see verticals, trends, sounds, whatever currently goes viral, our goal is always not just to copy the exact thing, because it's not going to work for our creator. If the creator who does it lives on a beach house in Thailand and has big tits, our petite creator in fucking Düsseldorf, Germany, which every one of you is unfortunate enough to be there, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to go viral for her. So we need to find a different thing that makes it crazy. We need to find a thing that compensates for the thing that made the video viral in the first place, right? And last but not least, obviously keep watching, keep an eye on everything that's going. So you want to have a certain monitoring system to make sure your agency as a whole spends at least 8 hours a day on Reels. Maybe a couple of VAs that scroll, send you content ideas, or yourself if you want to fry your brain even higher. But to kind of give a sneak peek, before I go to the Instagram speech, that's essentially the current meta. So you're just copying what's giga viral, like super, super viral, and adding your own factor to it, right? Now, just to quickly summarize, the 3 levers that pulled our agency like back from the shit: keeping acquisition running and optimizing it to a point where the time and the energy we spent on creators was actually reasonable for their potential they had, matching our A players to our A creators and rating our team in a way that we don't work with incompetent people, even if we think they're competent, and last but not least, following the market with viral trends. Now, basically, I would like you guys to execute all of this right after the event, but for now, I'm just going to get a quick coffee. Let's have like a 5 or 10 minute break, then we're just going to get to the next speech. Sounds good? Yeah. All right.